Oh, listen to that. Listen to that. Welcome to the Comparison Guy podcast. Listen on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. If you're on YouTube, just go to the top, click on one of the links, and listen there. Is it true Donald Trump is getting rid of daylight savings time, but not for black people because black people are on CPT time?
Gonna put the world away for a minute, pretend I don't live in it. Sunshine gonna wash my blues away. Had sweet love, but I lost it.
If I had a bigger show, I could get that trending. I guarantee you I could. I could get that going.
Wishing I was deep in the water somewhere. Got the blue sky breeze and it don't seem fair. Only worry in the world is the tide gonna reach my chair. Sunrise is a fire.
Come on, we can't fool around. We can't fool around. I got a lot to say. I got to get through this, but can you bear with me for just a couple of minutes before I start with the whole DEI discussion? Let me just say something about the state of the Democratic Party. And I want you to listen to this clip from The View, I think from yesterday, with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett from Texas as a guest. Listen to her be asked about the Democrats' strategy going forward. Listen to this.
Well, I want to ask you about Democrats. You're obviously leading next generation voice in the Democratic Party. And while Trump is moving at this breakneck pace, it feels like signing all these EOs, doing these long-ranging press conferences in the Oval Office, Democrats seem to not be getting their footing on what the message and strategy is to push back. We think of the leaders chanting, "We will win" outside of Treasury, which was widely panned. You've talked about Democrats needing a branding overhaul. Are you satisfied with the approach so far? And what do they need to do to kind of get their mojo back?
You know what? I think that just like the rest of the world, we've got a bit of whiplash because for some people, even those that voted for him, they said, well, we've been here before. And we didn't fall apart the last time he was here, so we won't fall apart this time. And so I think that while we had the playbook right there for us, Project 2025, I still think that even some Democrats were like, oh, well, he's just going to do what he did last time. This is just literally not even partisanship, in my opinion, at this point. This is incompetence. And I think that, no, seriously, it's incompetence.
One thing, would you support Democrats shutting down the government as a bargaining chip to push back against the White House?
It's not, we don't have the power to shut the government down.
Well, to refuse to vote for funding bills.
I absolutely support that we should not be voting for this funding bill because this funding bill is going to gut the things that we care about. And I don't believe that we can enter into good faith negotiations with people that literally could care less about their word. We saw what happened.
So I chopped that up for time, but I wanted you to get the essence of the answer to a direct question. Representative Crockett, you say the Democratic Party needs a rebranding. What's your strategy? Are you happy with the way things are going? She goes into, back to the criticism. This is crazy. This is nuts. We got whiplash. We knew the playbook, but we still got whiplash. We're still shocked because we didn't think he was going to do all these things that he's doing, even though we swore up and down, take our word for it, he's going to do all these things he says he's going to do. And then when she kind of gets around to it, when Alyssa Farah Griffin asked her, will you shut down the government? We don't have the power to shut down the government. Will you not vote for the funding? Oh, yeah, we're not going to vote for the funding. That's nothing new. That's what they always do. They always say we're not voting for the funding. It guts the things we care about. Yeah, that's what happens. Republicans put up a funding bill, Democrats are against it. Democrats put up a funding bill, Republicans are against it. It gets to the 24th hour, and then they figure it out. 23rd hour, I guess the phrase is. And then they figure out, and they pass a stopgap, and then we're right back there 3 months later. This is what they do. This is all they do. I got to sit there and listen to an audience applaud for this nonsense? This is all they do. They asked her for a strategy. She has none. And yet Sonny Austin calls her, you're whoever Alyssa called her, you're the new generation. You're the up-and-coming voice. You're the up-and-coming voice in the Democratic Party. That's what you represent. She has nothing. They have nothing, no strategy, nothing to offer, nothing new. All any of them are doing, whether it's Democrats in the government, in the media, influence on social media. I told you last episode, all they're doing in regards to Donald Trump and Elon Musk are being play-by-play people. That's all they're doing. They're play-by-play. And it's important, don't get me wrong, it's important to get the information and know what's going on. I don't say no, but I have eyes. I see what's going on. I don't know that I need 50 million different sources of information telling me what Donald Trump is doing. I don't know that I need everybody doing that and nobody offering any strategy. Well, what would you do, Comparison Guy? What would you do, Comparison Guy podcast? You're so smart. I'm so glad you asked. So glad you asked. You must be new to this podcast because this ain't no rant podcast. This ain't no state the problem podcast. This is Offer Answers podcast. So what would I do? The first thing I would do if I was a Democratic member of Congress is I would call on all my fellow members to stop getting paid. Stop getting paid if we are not doing the work. We have passed one bill since this 119th Congress was seated on January 3rd. One bill, the Laken-Riley Act. Good bill, but that's it. That's it. Haven't passed anything else. As Donald Trump and Elon Musk do whatever they do, the Republicans sit and watch it. As Donald Trump and Elon Musk do whatever they do, the Democrats sit there and give you the play-by-play. So that would be my suggestion. Get up there in Congress and say, you know what? Why don't we just stop taking checks? Why don't we just stop getting paid if we're not going to do anything? That'd be the first thing. That'd at least get people's attention. It would at least give some acknowledgement that they understand why people might be frustrated, not only with Donald Trump, but with them. It would at least be some acknowledgement of that. After they acknowledge that, let's all acknowledge, look, Republicans, we can't count on them right now. They are not sticking their necks out right now to loudly condemn Donald Trump or Elon Musk. It's way too early. It's way too early for them to stick their necks out and do that. We're only a month in. The criticism isn't loud enough yet. The poll numbers aren't reflecting the entire country running away from Donald Trump. So stop looking to the Republicans to help you at all. That would be the next acknowledgement I would make. You're wasting your time. Oh, how come the Republicans aren't? How come the Republicans aren't? They're not. They're not going to. Stop wasting my time. Stop wasting your time asking that stupid question. Next, Democrats have to realize their problem. And their problem is they are the guy who didn't treat his girlfriend well. So she dumped him and took up with the bad boy. That's who the Democrats are. They didn't treat the girlfriend well, and she dumped him and took up with the bad boy. Americans dumped the Democrats, took up with Trump, and now an arrogant and foolish ex-boyfriend sits back and says, she'll be back. She'll be back. She ain't going to be happy with him. She'll figure it out. I'm the best thing that ever happened to her, and she's going to come crawling back. And until she does, I'm going to take pleasure in hearing about how the bad rebound guy is treating her. And I'm going to tell all her mutual friends she never should have left me. I tried to tell her how awesome I am. She never should have left me. She can't do better than me. That's the Democrats right now. They're desperate to find any story and put any story out there about Trump voters who are now regretting their decision to vote for Donald Trump. Like there's millions of Trump voters going, oh my goodness, I can't believe what I did. They're desperate to find any story of any red state official saying, oh, we're worried about the funding cuts. We're worried about the funding cuts, too. It's going to affect us here in North Carolina. It's going to affect us here in Tennessee. Oh, we're worried. They're desperate to find any one of those stories so they can sit back and say, oh, you never should have left me. I'm the best thing you had going. You never should have left me. That's the arrogant, stupid boyfriend's way of thinking. Because he doesn't realize, just because she realizes that the bad boy, the rebound bad boy that she went to sucks, doesn't mean she's coming back to you. It doesn't mean she's coming back to you when she breaks up with the rebound guy. Democrats seem to think, oh, we'll just keep telling people how awful Trump is, and when things get bad enough, they'll come crawling back to us. That's stupid. It's stupid. The smart ex-boyfriend says, man, I messed up. I messed up. I have to admit, I was not very good to her. I didn't listen. I didn't respect her views. It was always my way. I didn't consider her an equal in the relationship. And I took her for granted. I took her for granted. And now I want to win her back. So I have to change. I have to show her I have changed. Now, chances are you ain't getting her back, because when you don't treat a woman right, once they're done with you, they're done with you. But you learn. You learn not to make the same mistakes. You grow and you mature. Oh, I get it. Sex is for her too. Okay, that makes sense. And then the next election, as you move forward, you're in a better position to succeed. Democrats, is this hard? Seriously? Is this really that hard to understand? Are you seriously that stubborn and hard-headed that you think you're going to win people back by running around going, told you should have voted for Kamala? Try to tell you, you big dummies. Is that how you seriously think you're going to win people back that way? I mean, you'll get a couple of people. You'll get a couple of people to come back if Trump makes things bad enough in the midterm elections so you can take back the House and take back the Senate. And I guess you'll hold a parade because, oh, hey, we hold the majority in the House by 5 seats. And we got the majority in the Senate by 1.5 seats because Bernie's only half a Democrat. I guess they'll celebrate that as a victory. What's the use? Let's just move on. I told you a few episodes ago I wanted to discuss race, racial inequality, as I think it relates to an unseen threat to the Democratic Party, a threat they don't really, I think, fully understand or even think exists. I don't think they realize how it is possible to be too demanding of equality. Someone posted a question to me on Spotify asking, do I think black people are at all at fault for some of the current backlash against DEI? And now, I'm quite sure that will sound weird to some people's ears, especially if you feel like you're the person being discriminated against or disenfranchised or kept down. How in the heck can I be at fault for demanding equal pay for the same work, or equity in housing, or education, or fairness and a level playing field to pursue the American dream? How can I be at fault for demanding those things? That's the question. How can an individual or a group working towards any of those things be on the wrong side? In a proper society, of course, it's not only ethical to seek equality, it's smart. It's smart. It builds a stronger, successful public, successful society. But what happens when the work to level the playing field tips it too far to the other side? Has that ever happened? How do we measure that if it does happen? What happens if one person's fight for freedom to do something is another person's mandate to not do something? You have to sell a cake to a same-sex couple getting married. They have the right to buy cake. You're being mandated to sell them a cake. So sell the cake. What's the problem? They're asking you to sell them a wedding cake. They're not asking you to lube them up on their wedding night. What's the problem? Well, I'm someone who believes I don't necessarily have to live someone's experiences to respect their views. And so I don't have to live the experience of someone who says I was born gay, or I was born the wrong gender, or I experienced sexism, or I experienced racism. I don't have to live those experiences to respect them. And I also don't have to live the experience of someone who says, listen, I have my religious beliefs. I have my set of principles that I live by, and I don't want to be mandated or told I have to do anything. There might be someone who says, look, I'm not against gay marriages. I'm against the government telling me I have to run my business as if I'm for gay marriages, if that makes any sense. So I'll respect anyone's views. I don't need to experience it. I don't need to be in their heads to understand why they think the way they think. I'll respect their views. And that's what people want, I think, for the most part. They don't want to be judged, and they don't want to be controlled. That's what people hate. They don't want to be judged, and they don't want to be controlled, particularly by the government. But in a civil society, you have to have some control. You have to have rules and laws and controls on people's worst instincts misguided or uneducated thoughts, selfishness, desperation, and bias. Bias, that's the big one. There's the word, a noun. Prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another. The bias. And unfortunately, we learn bias at an early age. We learn bias when we pop out of the womb. Generally, we'll learn it at home. If there's bias in the home, that's where an individual is going to learn it. It's almost like genetics. You follow an ugly kid home, chances are two ugly people are going to open the door. Can there be exceptions? Of course. Look at Jay-Z and Beyonce. You know, their daughter, Blue Ivy, she's a pretty girl. Look at Jay-Z. I mean, I don't want to get off track. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, bias. We all have it, and we learn it at an early age. And let's not be silly. Let's stick with what we all know we're talking about. Because I could say, I have bias against TV shows. I prefer comedies to reality shows. We're talking about bias against individuals or groups. And we learn it. We learn it. We learn this bias. If it doesn't happen in the home, it happens in the environment that we grow up in. There may be two completely unbiased parents living in the home, but if you go to school where those other homes do have bias in them, then their children will grow up with some type of bias. And then when you're a child, you don't want to go against the grain. If, your group of friends is teasing a particular person, maybe because they're Jewish, you go along with it. You go along with that bias, and it becomes learned. I can't mandate you unlearn your bias. I can't mandate that any more than you can mandate I unlearn multiplication. It was drilled into me, multiplication. 8 times 8, 64. 4 times 9, 36. 12 times 12, 144. I'm good up to that point. I learned it. So now I know it. I can't unlearn it. So what I have to do is I have to learn something else. I have to learn a new way because I can only go so far. I can go to 12 times 12 pretty good. But you get me to 16 times 16, I got to break out the calculator unless I learn a new way. And so, I say, there is a different way. Is there a different way to do multiplication that's easier for me? They say, sure. Half it, then double it. Half it, then double it. Yeah, you take the 16 times 16, you make it 8 times 8. You know that, right? Yeah, that's 64. Now double both numbers. Or double it twice for both numbers. So 64, I can do that. I can do that in my head. 64, double it, 128. Then double it again, 256. Oh, wow, look at that. Look at that. I got the same answer. I got there. I learned a different way to do multiplication. We have to learn a different way to interact with people, how to view people, how to treat people. We've learned the bias from an early age. We have to learn a different way. We can't unlearn it, so we have to learn a different way. We have to interact with people to learn a different way. Only through interaction can we get past the basic bias that we've learned. Those type of people, they're a certain way, they tend to be this way. Those people, they're tight with $1. Those people, they can be pretty stingy with money. Those people, they can have kids. They only have to stay pregnant for 3 months. They can crank out a kid every 3 months. Oh, trust me, I've seen it done. Oh, those people. Only through interaction can you find out, that doesn't seem to be true. That doesn't seem to describe this person at all. But that ain't what we do. That's not what we do. We cling to the same bias. We segregate ourselves into the same groups to almost guarantee we won't learn anything new. We won't learn anything new unless it's forced upon us. And forcing new information makes it a whole lot less likely it will be accepted. If you try and force information on me, I probably will fight it and I won't accept it. And that's why we're having such a backlash against some of these initiatives that have actually been around for a pretty long time. And people weren't particularly happy about, but now we have someone who has no problem saying this stuff needs to go. This stuff sucks. And so that's why we're having a backlash, because it feels like, yes, it needs to go because it's been forced on us. It's been forced on us and we're expected to just accept it. But there's also another problem that the Democrats have to take a look at, and some people have to take a look at, is its found everywhere now. The issue, the problem, the discrimination, the inequality, you can find it anywhere if you want to look. And that's exactly what's going on, because you have so many different sources now, and you got people tweeting, you got people, social media and then cable news, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. When something happens in a small town in Skokie somewhere, 1 million people hear about it. And that didn't used to be the case. And so it's the volume. It's the volume that creates a problem. Because like I said, you can find that anywhere. You can find racism in window treatments. You could have the CEO of a big window treatment manufacturer tweet something out racist. As an example, not saying this has happened, I'm just saying, as an example, random example. CEO window treatment manufacturer tweets out something racist. Uh-oh. Next thing you know, you got 5 black people sitting around MSNBC saying, this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. Do you know that of the top 10 window treatment manufacturers, not a single one has a black CEO? And furthermore, of all these companies, at the top executive levels, only 1% are made up of blacks or women. This is unacceptable. And so you got some people who sit there and go, yeah, that's an outrage. I mean, everybody's got windows. Why should white folks be the only one to cover them? And next thing you know, you're like, how the heck we get here? So this is where I'm trying to explain to you, Democrats may be vulnerable to this sort of thing because people are kind of losing their patience with it. They're losing their patience with the volume of things like this. Listen to this clip from this particular show. I want to give you an example of how the opponents of Democrats may be picking up on this. Listen to this.
Folks, we don't do a lot of foreign policy on this show, but there's going to be a lot of interest in this topic. Now, I'm going to say in advance, as I've said often, ladies and gentlemen, I am as serious as a stroke about this. If you are one of these people, I know it's hard to look in the mirror, that hates any ethnic group at all, Hispanics, blacks, Asians, Jews, I'm sorry, but you're not welcome here. Well, I'm not sorry, but you're not welcome here. You can watch the show. I can't stop. I'm just telling you, this isn't you're not going to like my show because we don't do that shit. It's not a virtue signal. It's just true. So if you're a Jew hater, and the thing is like, you just want to hate the Jews. I'm not saying you don't have a reasonable objection to peace deals. You don't like the Netanyahu government. You have objections to Israel policy. That is fine. We do free speech. I support a platform that supports all views. On Rumble, I actually invest in it. Speak your turn. If your thing is I hate Jews and everything they do is wrong, you're not going to like the show. The show's not for you. You don't have to announce your departure. It's not an airport. You can just go. You're not going to like it. We're never going to agree. Everybody cool with that? Because I don't want to deal with 6,000 people in the chat. The Jews did it. I'm not interested in stupidity, okay? If you replace that with any other ethnic group, you'd be horrified at your stupidity, okay? So just stop.
So that's about as anti-racist a statement as you can make, coming from a guy who, take my word for it, I listen to him, you don't. He is a hardline Trump guy. He is Trump through and through. Trump supporter through and through. He's conservative through and through. And people can sit back and be pessimistic and say, he's just saying that. He's just pandering to somebody. Whatever. Say what you say. Say what you want. I listen to the guy's show. Is he contradictory on a lot of things? Does he say some things that I'm like, oh boy, I can't believe he said that? Of course, yeah. He's a conservative. He's a Trump guy. I'm not necessarily a Trump guy. And so he says plenty of things I disagree with. But he's never said anything to lead me to believe that he's not being genuine in what he just said there. So whether you feel like he's trying to pander in some sort of a way, whether you feel like Fox News or the Fox corporation is pandering in some way by putting a young black guy on their morning show, Fox and Friends, or you feel like they're pandering in some way by having the channel Fox Soul, which is geared completely to a young black audience, whether you think they're pandering in some sort of a way, you better pay attention, because if it's effective, it's effective. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's pandering or if it's genuine. What matters is the result. Is it effective? Is it winning over the hearts and minds of a group of people that generally they couldn't get. That's the threat to Democrats that they need to pay attention to. As you have more and more people going, I'm getting sick of this. Everything's racist with the Democrats. Everything's DEI with the Democrats. People should just be judged on their merit. They should just be judged on their merit. As people move more in that direction, Democrats need to pay attention. And I told you why. I told you why. It's something that everyone understands. It's interesting that everyone understands it, but for some reason we just keep going for it. Everyone understands. We are divided in this country by race. There are three things. I've heard this said by a top radio guy a long time ago. There are three things that will light up your phone lines if you need to get calls: race, abortion, and guns. No surprise there. The three things that will light up your lines and get people talking quicker than anything else: race, abortion, and guns. It is what will divide this country. And so if one side figures out how to use the race, how should I say it, the messaging on race, if one side figures out how to use that more effectively than the other, it's game over. It's game over. If the Republican Party wins over young black people, young Latino people, older black people, older Latino people, Latino business owners who don't really give a hoot about some deportation of criminals, they care about their business. They care about their small business, just like anyone else does. If they start to win over those groups, it's game over for Democrats. And I don't think they're even aware that it's going on, that it's happening. It's happening right now. We saw it in the last election. There wasn't a huge shift, but any shift should be scary to Democrats. Any shift. I'm not trying to upset anybody. I'm just trying to help. I'm just giving my humble opinion of what I see, what I experience, and trying to help. And I'm telling you, Democrats, if your message is going to continue to be, it's all whitey's fault, and it's all the billionaires' fault, and their message is going to shift to, hey, we all bleed red and fight the power. Fight the power. Who's the power? Well, the power are the people who take your vote for granted. And then when you vote for them, they get nothing done for you. The people who look down on you because you're not college educated. That's the power. The power are the people who say things like this. Listen to this.
What is the cause of America's budget deficit? The cause of the American budget deficit are the Bush tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, the military, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. That's it.
Holy smokes. If you listen to my last couple of episodes, you might think I'm picking on these guys in some way because I played clips from their show. But I just listened to the show. I don't know they're going to say something that stupid. I have no idea when I tune in they're going to say something that stupid. Bush tax cuts, Trump tax cuts, military spending, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. That's it. That's it. That's the cause of our deficit. Do you want to throw the $5 trillion in pandemic spending in there somewhere? Do you want to include that? Oh, well, that was Trump's fault. He mishandled the pandemic. I don't give a flying February what the reason is. Do you want to include that on the ledger? Do you want to include the $5 trillion in spending according to the pandemicoversight.gov website? I mean, the Bush tax cuts were like 20-something years ago. The pandemic spending was like yesterday, figuratively. We just spent it, $5 trillion in 18 months, and this bobblehead doesn't even have the good sense to include it in one of the causes of our deficit. These are the people who have the power because they have the microphone. They have the influence. People are listening to these guys in huge numbers. They are one of the top podcasts, if not the top podcast on the left. They go on The View and they go on these different shows. They know Stephen Colbert and they know Obama. They can pick up the phone and call Obama. They all worked in his administration. And they don't have the sense enough to say, the fact that we spent $5 trillion like 3 years ago, that might be part of the problem too. No, It's the three things we hate: the Bush tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, military spending, and the three things we have no intention of ever doing anything about: Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. That's the cause of our deficit, according to this dingleberry. How is that possible? How is it possible I can listen to one of the top shows on the left and constantly hear one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life? How is that even possible? Because they haven't learned a thing. They haven't learned a thing. They're incapable, it would appear, of learning. Because I guess they haven't failed enough. You know, when you fail, you got to learn. When you're in business and you fail, you have to learn. When you're in politics and you fail, you do not have to learn a thing. They're like a quarterback throwing 10 interceptions and a half and going, I think there might be something wrong with the football. They haven't learned a thing. They're the boyfriend that got dumped, and she told you she left you because you didn't treat her well, and you don't want to believe it. And you also don't want to believe that the reason she's not going to come back to you is because she sees no future with you. She sees no future with you. That's why the Democrats are struggling right now. If there's no long-term relationship, well, she may as well be with the bad boy and have some fun. Democrats haven't learned a thing. They haven't learned how to respond to attacks on DEI, race, gender. It's just another example of their huge blind spot that they have on, it seems like, everything right now. Those social issues compared with the government and the size of government and how much people want government in their lives and the tax the rich and the economy, all of these things, they have this blind spot. They just have it in their head. We know what's right. We know what's right. We're the best. If we just get our messaging together, that's all we got to do. The new guy, new chair of the DNC, just got to get the messaging together and get the messaging out there. You know, got to get it out there. All 50 states. He actually said 57 states, which I don't know if he got made fun of for that, but I think he was just trying to do the whole, D.C., Puerto Rico, they should be states. He said 57. We got to get the message out there to all 57 states, he said. Hey, good luck with that. Good luck with that. You don't even have a message to get out to all 50 states. You don't have a message that people will agree with you in California, much less Oklahoma. Who are these people? Where do they keep finding these people? Am I wrong? Listen, I always tell you, you can comment on YouTube, you can comment on Spotify. I wish you would. If I'm wrong, you tell me I'm wrong. If you disagree, you tell me you disagree. That's fine. I expect it. I expect disagreement. I expect people to correct things I say that aren't accurate. But you can't sit back and tell me, oh, no, I think the Democrats are doing an awesome job. I think they got it all together and they're doing awesome. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me Democrats have their thumb on the pulse of the American people right now. They got no clue. They'll tell you they got no clue what to do. I played you the clip at the beginning of the show, Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine, what are you going to do? We got whiplash right now. We're still a little unsettled, trying to get our footing right now, trying to figure things out. We knew exactly what this Trump guy was going to do, but, we didn't know exactly what this Trump guy was going to do. You understand, don't you? No, I don't. I really don't, Democrats. I don't understand. I don't understand how a part-time idiot hobbyist podcaster like me can hear a guy on one of the biggest shows on the left that worked in the Obama administration for 8 years can sit there and talk about deficit spending and not include $5 trillion of spending in the ledger. No, I don't understand that. I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm going off on a tangent. I want to play you one last clip going back to the whole sticking with the DEI racism topic. Listen to this clip. This is Steve Bannon. You remember Steve Bannon, don't you? Worked in the Trump administration for a short period of time, but he's one of the biggest voices on the right. So listen to Steve Bannon speaking to a right-wing group in France about 6 years ago. Okay? 6 years ago. Listen to this.
Let them call you racist. Let them call you xenophobes. Let them call you nativist. Wear it as a badge of honor. Because every day we get stronger and they get weaker.
Let them call you racist. Let them call you xenophobic. Let them call you nativist. Wear it as a badge of honor. Every day we get stronger, they get weaker. Was he right? Was Steve Bannon right 6 years ago? I mean, he was speaking to a group called the National Front in France. Right-wing group sounds pretty scary to me. I don't know. This is who he was speaking to. So he had a willing audience there for those words. But that's what he said. Like I said, they don't even pretend. They lay the game plan out for you. They lay the game plan out for you. As you have all these people on the left going, I'm going to call out the racism every time I see it. You got people on the right going, please call out the racism every time you see it. Please. It makes us stronger. The more you do it, the less impact it has. They don't even hide their strategy. They give it to you. Democrats have no strategy. Republicans can't wait to tell you their strategy. Yes, wear that as a badge of honor, he says. Don't hide it. Don't run from it. I've said before, Steve Bannon is the guy that has told people, listen, the more extreme you go, the more extreme it forces them to go in response. That's the strategy. The more extreme you go in this direction, the more extreme they have to go in response. And they're going to look bad. They're going to look bad by going to the left extreme. You're not going to look bad by going to the right extreme because everybody knows you're already crazy. You can get away with it a lot more than the left can get away with it. I'm not trying to offend my friends on the right. I'm just saying that's the way it is. People expect the left to be a little more level-headed, common sense, and smarter. And so when they go to the extreme, they lose all of that. They lose all of that. And they start coming up with things like in the military, I heard a general say, if I had time, I'd go look for the clip, but we don't have time. But it was on Bill Maher. Black guy, general. If you saw him, you'd know him. You see him on TV all the time. He's a former general or brigadier general. I can't remember. But he said one of the changes they made in the military is they didn't want them saying, hey, guys, anymore. That's what he said on Bill Maher. That's one of the diversity training or whatever you want to call it training that they had in the military. They didn't want people walking into a room, saying, oh, everybody at attention, and then going, okay, guys, or hey, guys, because that was considered offensive because, hey, everybody doesn't identify as a guy. That's going to the extreme. That's being forced to the extreme, which ends up making you seem like you have no common sense and you're not smart. And the more that happens, the less impact real, true racism that should be pointed out is taken seriously. And suddenly people say, I don't hate you because of your race or your gender or your religion. I don't hate you or blame you for the diversity initiatives. I kind of get them, but I hate you because of your policies. I hate you because of your way of thinking. Your way of thinking just seems so out of whack with what I think or I believe or my values or my principles. That's where the differentiation comes in politics. No longer race or religion or gender or age or education. It's about the policy. It's about the views. When views become too extreme, that's the threat that Democrats have. And so to answer the listener's question, are black people to blame for the backlash against diversity initiatives? Hey, listen, anyone who can't figure out what I'm telling them is to blame. Anyone stuck on the same argument, the same losing argument, whether it's for personal gain or just stupidity, in my opinion, is to blame. People could say, hey, we need more diversity in head coaching in the NFL. We need more black coaches. They don't get the opportunity. That's fine by me, because I know a coach will get fired if they don't win, unless it's Mike Tomlin, which don't get me started on that. Anyone can lose in the first round of the playoffs every year, Mike. Or we need diversity in STEM fields. We need more women. We need more minorities. Why? Well, because we need an army of people in those areas. So we need to expand the opportunity to everyone. Fine. Fine, as long as they have the knowledge and skill necessary, that's all. But that's not our problem. That's not hard to convince people of. What's hard to convince people of is where we really need diversity. We really need diversity in thought and critical thinking. But what do? We isolate ourselves. Isolate ourselves from anyone who thinks differently because it offends us. It makes us uncomfortable. It challenges us. It makes us feel judged. You tell somebody they're wrong, they feel judged. And it brings out our bias. I'm biased. You're biased. We're all biased. But being biased against information? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I keep hearing about all these algorithms. I'm going to blue sky, where I decide what I see. I'm not going to let an algorithm decide what I see. Well, you can do that on Twitter. You can do that on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Netflix. I don't watch every movie Netflix puts in front of my face by their algorithm. Do you know I've never watched a single YouTube reaction video? They got all these reaction videos. Oh, the first time hearing Hey Jude by the Beatles. Reaction. I've never watched a single reaction video, even though the YouTube algorithm keeps putting it in my face. Keeps putting all this stuff in my face. But I'm desperately searching for intelligent discussion on Twitter, but it doesn't exist because people only follow the people they agree with and they fight with the people they disagree with. That's all they do. No exchange of views. No exchange of ideas. What the heck does the Twitter algorithm have to do with that? What does the Twitter algorithm have to do with how you interact with people, how you talk to people? People get their news from TikTok. And I'm sure the most popular videos are the ones saying, Trump is awesome, or the ones saying Trump is the devil. I'm quite sure those are the most popular videos, regardless of the algorithm. I'm not on Facebook because I have no interest in seeing pictures of my friends from college kid going through his first day of school. I have no interest. Sorry. The diversity I want is diversity of conversation. Tell me something I don't know. Correct something for me. Give me new information I didn't have. Because if you do that, I feel like I learned something. Oh, okay. So what you're saying is a chicken can't double its egg output if you give it cocaine. Okay, gotcha. Learn something new every day. So we can't solve the egg prices problem that way. Give me something I don't know. I say this is not a rant podcast. This is not an answer question or ask questions podcast. This is try and offer some ideas, solutions, suggestions. I don't expect people to agree with what I say. I don't expect people to agree with everything I say. I'm just trying. At least I'm trying. At least I realize. Look, you can go anywhere and listen to people rant about their problems, about the country's problems. I'm just trying. But if I have a solution and no one hears it, what good is it? And no one hears it because they choose to get their information from someone who has at least 500,000 followers on Twitter, or someone who appears to be popular on the left or popular on the right. If you're a Democrat and you want to win elections, I don't know if that's going to help you win elections. I think listening to people who can offer some sort of solution would help you in winning elections. So solution Democrats, listen, people prefer an underdog. They prefer an underdog to an aloof, we're the best smarty pants party. People don't like that. Be the underdog. Get that chip off your shoulder. Get that off your high horse. And admit, hey, we lost an election. We screwed up. We beat ourselves. We didn't get beat. We beat ourselves. We lost an election to someone we never should have lost an election to. And that happened because we were too focused on our own agenda and what we thought and what we could give you instead of listening to you tell us what you wanted. And we know it's not going to be easy. We know we're going to have to work harder than we've ever had to work before to earn back your trust and your confidence. And that's understandable. That's how it should be. You should be hesitant to give us your trust and your confidence right now. And we're not asking for your vote. Doing that now would be presumptuous and underestimating how much damage we've done to your faith in us. All we ask for is an opportunity to show you that we're trying and we're willing to change and we're willing to learn. We're willing to make sure you get something out of sex too. I don't know. I think this podcast is pretty good.
Now you're standing there,
Thanks for listening.
You listen well.
Listen on Apple Podcast, on Spotify. Listen on YouTube. Comment on YouTube. There's no video, but that's okay. That's okay. You can still listen there. But don't forget to follow. Don't forget to rate. Don't forget to share.
Never again is
what you swore the time before. Never again is what you swore the time before.
Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.